Hey guys, it's Miss Mahler.
Miss O'Leary here as well.
And this week we are going to read a really cool story. It is called All Summer in a Day by Ray Bradbury.
Perfect. I think you're really going to like it.
So before we read the story, All Summer in a Day, we wanted to go over the vocabulary that you're going to see in the story. If when you're reading the story, you get to a word that you're not sure of, you can go back and look at this vocabulary sheet to see the definition for each word. Number 1, slacken, which is a verb. Slacken means to make or become less active, vigorous, or intense. Number 2, feverish, which is an adjective. Feverish means excited, restless, or uncontrolled. Number 3, avalanche, noun. An avalanche is a mass of snow, ice, and rocks falling rapidly down a mountainside. Number 4, apparatus, noun. An apparatus is the machinery needed for a particular activity or purpose. Number 5, repercussion, noun. Repercussion means as a result, often indirect, or some event or action. It also means the outcome. Number 6, immense, adjective. Huge, vast, massive, especially in scale or degree. Number 7, tumultuous, adjective. Tumultuous means making a loud, confused noise, deafening. Number 8, octopi, noun. Octopi means more than one octopus. Number 9, waver, verb. To waver means to shake with a quivering motion. Number 10, resilient, adjective. Resilient means returning to its original form or position after being bent, compressed, or stretched. Number 11, savor, verb. Savor means to enjoy and appreciate.
Ready? Ready. Now? Soon. Did the scientists really know what happened today? Will it? Look! See for yourself. The children pressed to each other like so many roses, so many weeds intermixed, peering out for a look at the hidden sun. It rained. It had been raining for 7 years. Thousands upon thousands of days compounded and filled from one end to the other with rain, with the drum and gush of water, with the sweet crystal fall of showers and the concussion of storms, so heavy they were tidal waves come over the island. 1,000 forests had been crushed under the rain and grown up 1,000 times to be crushed again. And this was the way life was forever on the planet Venus. And this was a schoolroom of the children of the rocket men and women who had come to a raining world to set up civilization and live out their lives. It's stopping! It's stopping! Yes! Margot stood apart from these children who could never remember a time when there wasn't rain and rain and rain. They were all 9 years old, and if there had been a day 7 years ago when the sun came out for an hour and showed its face to the stunned world, they could not recall. Sometimes at night, she heard them stir in remembrance, and she knew they were dreaming and remembering gold, or a yellow crayon, or a coin large enough to buy the world with. She knew they thought they remembered a warmness, like a blushing in the face, in the body, in the arms and legs, and trembling hands. But then they always awoke to the tatting drum, the endless shaking down of clear bead necklaces upon the roof, the walk, the gardens, the forests, and their dreams were gone. All day yesterday, they had read in class about the sun, about how like a lemon it was, and how hot. And they had written small stories or essays or poems about it. I think the sun is a flower that blooms for just 1 hour. That was Margot's poem, read in a quiet voice in a still classroom while the rain was falling outside. "Oh, you didn't write that," protested one of the boys. "I did," said Margot. "I did." "William," said the teacher. But that was yesterday. Now the rain was slackening, and the children were crushed in the great thick windows. Where's teacher? She'll be back. She better hurry, we'll miss it. They turned on themselves like a feverish wheel, all tumbling spokes. Margot stood alone. She was a very frail girl who looked as if she had been lost in the rain for years, and the rain had washed out the blue from her eyes, and the red from her mouth, and the yellow from her hair. She was an old photograph dusted from an album, whitened away, and if she spoke at all, her voice would be a ghost. Now she stood separate, staring at the rain and the loud, wet world beyond the huge glass. What are you looking at? Said William. Margot said nothing. Speak when you're spoken to. He gave her a shove, but she did not move. Rather, she let herself be moved only by him and nothing else. They edged away from her. They would not look at her. She felt them go away. And this was because she would play no games with them in the echoing tunnels of the underground city. If they tagged her and ran, she stood blinking after them and did not follow. When the class sang songs about happiness and life and games, her lips barely moved. Only when they sang about the sun and the summer did her lips move as she watched the drenched windows. And then, of course, the biggest crime of all was that she had come here only 5 years ago from Earth, and she remembered the sun and the way the sun was and the sky was when she was 4 in Ohio. And they had been on Venus all their lives, and they had been only 2 years old when last the sun came out, and had long since forgotten the color and heat of it and the way it really was. But Margot remembered. It's like a pig, she said once, eyes closed. No, it's not, the children cried. It's like a fire, she said, in the stove. You're lying, you don't remember, cried the children. But she remembered and stood quietly apart from all of them and watched the patterning windows. And once, a month ago, she had refused to shower in the school shower rooms, had clutched her hands to her ears and over her head, screaming the water mustn't touch her head. So after that, dimly, she sensed it. She was different, and they knew her difference and kept away. There was talk that her father and mother were taking her back to Earth next year. It seemed vital to her that they do so, though it would mean the loss of thousands of dollars to her family. And so the children hated her for all these reasons of big and little consequence. They hated her pale snow face, her waiting silence, her thinness, and her possible future. Get away! The boy gave her another push. What are you waiting for? Then, for the first time, she turned and looked at him. And what she was waiting for was in her eyes. Well, don't wait around here, cried the boy savagely. You don't see nothing. Her lips moved. Nothing, he cried. It was all a joke, wasn't it? He turned to the other children. Nothing's happening today, is it? They all blinked at him and then, understanding, laughed and shook their heads. Nothing. Oh, but, Margot whispered, her eyes helpless. But this is the day. The scientists predict. They say. They know. The sun. All a joke, said the boy and seized her roughly. Hey, everyone, let's put on a closet before teacher comes. No, said Margot, falling back. They surged about her, caught her up, and bore her protesting and then pleading and then crying back into a tunnel, a room, a closet, where they slammed and locked the door. They stood looking at the door and saw it tremble from her beating and throwing herself against it. They heard her muffled cries. Then, smiling, they turned and went out and back down the tunnel just as the teacher arrived. Ready, children? She glanced at her watch. Yes, said everyone. Are we all here? Yes. The rain slackened still more. They crowded to the huge door. The rain stopped. It was as if, in the midst of a film concerning an avalanche, a tornado, a hurricane, a volcanic eruption, something had, first, gone wrong with the sound apparatus, thus muffling and finally cutting off all noise, all of the blasts and repercussions and thunders, and then, second, ripped the film from the projector and inserted in its place a peaceful tropical slide which did not move or tremor. The world ground to a standstill. The silence was so immense and unbelievable that you felt your ears had been stuffed or you had lost your hearing altogether. The children put their hands to their ears. They stood apart. The door slid back, and the smell of the silent, waiting world came into them. The sun came out. It was the color of flaming bronze, and it was very large, and the sky around it was a blazing blue tile color, and the jungle burned with sunlight as the children, released from their spell, rushed out, yelling into the springtime. Now don't go too far, called the teacher after them. You've only 2 hours, you know. You wouldn't want to get caught out. But they were running and turning their faces up to the sky and feeling the sun on their cheeks like a warm iron. They were taking off their jackets and letting the sun burn their arms. Oh, it's better than the sun lamps, isn't it? Much, much better. They stopped running and stood in the great jungle that covered Venus, that grew and never stopped growing, tumultuously, even as you watched it. It was a nest of octopi, clustering up great arms of flesh like weed, wavering, flowering this brief spring. It was the color of rubber and ash, this jungle from the many years without sun. It was the color of stones and white cheeses and ink, and it was the color of the moon. The children lay out, laughing, on the jungle mattress and heard it sigh and squeak under them, resilient and alive. They ran among the trees, they slipped and fell, they pushed each other, they played hide and seek and tag, but most of all, they squinted at the sun until the tears ran down their faces. They put their hands up to that yellowness and that amazing blueness, and they breathed of the fresh air and listened to the silence which suspended them in a blessed sea of no sound and no motion. They looked at everything and savored everything. Then, wildly, like animals escaped from their caves, they ran in shouting circles. They ran for an hour and did not stop running. And then, in the midst of their running, one of the girls wailed. Everyone stopped. The girl, standing in the open, held out her hand. Oh, look, she said, trembling. They came slowly to look at her open palm. In the center of it, cupped and huge, was a single raindrop. She began to cry, looking at it. They glanced quietly at the sky. Oh. A few cold drops fell on their noses and their cheeks and their mouths. The sun faded behind a stir of mist. A wind blew cool around them. They turned and started to walk back toward the underground house, their hands at their sides, their smiles vanishing away. A boom of thunder startled them, and like leaves before a new hurricane, they tumbled upon each other and ran. Lightning struck 10 miles away, 5 miles away, a mile, a half mile. The sky darkened into midnight in a flash. They stood in the doorway of the underground for a moment until it was raining hard. Then they closed the door and heard the gigantic sound of the rain falling in tons and avalanches everywhere and forever. Will it be 7 more years? Yes, 7. And one of them gave a little cry. Margot! What? She's still in the closet where we locked her. Margot. They stood as if someone had driven them like so many stakes into the floor. They looked at each other and then looked away. They glanced out at the world that was raining now and raining steadily. They could not meet each other's glances. Their faces were solemn and pale. They looked at their hands and feet, their faces down. Margot. One of the girls said, well? No one moved. Go on, whispered the girl. They walked slowly down the hall and the sound of the cold rain. They turned through the doorway to the room, and the sound of the storm and thunder, lightning on their faces, blue and terrible. They walked over to the closet door slowly and stood by it. Behind the closed door was only silence. They unlocked the door, even more slowly, and let Margot out.
Wow, Miss O'Leary, I really like that story. How about you?
I thought it was really good. I'm interested to know what you think the setting was, because I know it could be a little confusing. What do you think?
So this story takes place on the planet Venus, which is super, super cool because I've never read a story where it takes place on Venus before because, you know, we all live on Earth. So I thought it was really interesting. And if you look near paragraph 30, Margot is talking about how when she moved to Venus, she was 4 years old when she moved from Ohio. So she lived like her younger part of her childhood in Ohio, but then after she turned 4, they moved to Venus. And so since then, Margot is really missing her home and on Earth. and she wants to get back home. And unfortunately, it's going to cost thousands of dollars for her parents to send her back to Earth. And I think this is kind of the perfect story to read for this week. What do you think, Miss O'Leary?
I do, especially because we've just experienced some days of wonderful sun. I know I personally have gotten out there and enjoyed it, and I know that so many of you have, and we've just been waiting for the sun to get here, that when it's finally here, we just can't believe it. We want to be outside. Also, unfortunately, I checked the weather for the week, and it seems like we're going to get some rain in the early days. So I do really think it's appropriate. We kind of have both the sun and the rain coming this week. So definitely appropriate. But other than that, I was just wondering about the theme. I know that I feel like there could be multiple themes of this story. What do you think?
So I think one of the themes could definitely be like, just because someone is different doesn't mean you need to treat them differently. And in the story, a lot of the kids were really mean to Margot. They didn't like that she had lived on Earth when she was really, really young, and they were kind of jealous of that. So anytime Margot talked about the sun or talked about what she remembered, those kids were kind of jealous, and they were mean to her about it. And eventually, they even locked her in the closet so she wasn't even able to see the sun. So I think one of the themes could be, like, just because you're different doesn't mean you need to treat anyone else differently. Like, I think you just still need to treat people the way you want to be treated.
I think that's perfect. I wanted to see if you agree with me that a theme could also be just be kind to everybody. I mean, they all could have experienced this together, and in the end, yeah, they did enjoy it, but then they were upset because of what they did, and they felt guilty. And to me, a theme probably is just be kind to others, because in the end, you want people to treat you the same way as well.
Yes, I completely agree.
Now that we read the story, let's check out the questions for the week that we're going to do. So we have all summer in a day, these questions. Number 1 says, read the passage from the story and answer the question below. So I'm going to read the passage to you. It starts right here. Everyone stopped. The girl, standing in the open, held out her hand. Oh, look, she said, trembling. They came slowly to look at her open palm. In the center of it, cupped and huge, was a single raindrop. She began to cry, looking at it. They glanced quietly at the sky. Oh. A few cold drops fell on their noses and their cheeks and their mouths. The sun faded behind a stir of mist. A wind blew cool around them. They turned and started to walk backward toward the underground house, their hands at their sides, their smiles vanishing away. A boom of thunder startled them, and like leaves before a new hurricane, they tumbled upon each other and ran. Lightning struck 10 miles away, 5 miles away, a mile, a half a mile. The sky darkened into midnight in a flash. They stood in the doorway of the underground for a moment until it was raining hard. Then they closed the door and heard the gigantic sound of the rain falling in tons and avalanches, everywhere and forever. So based upon that, it says, what does this passage reveal about the kids' point of view? A, the kids are ready to return to the underground house. B, the kids realize that the rain is less enjoyable than the sun. C, the kids are afraid of the dangerous weather that is approaching. D, the kids do not enjoy the rain, but they understand that it is important. Go ahead and take 30 seconds to answer that question.
All right, if you're not quite finished, please pause the video, focus on that question, and then join us when you're finished. Number 2, a theme of this story is that the children are A, happy when they are playing with their friends, B, cruel to people who are different, C, kind to those who need help, D, unwilling to admit a mistake. Go ahead and take 30 seconds to answer this question. If you're not quite finished with the question, please pause the video, answer that one, and then start it again when you're finished.
Number 3, how does the constant rain on Venus affect the children in the story? A, the constant rain has made the children sensitive to sunlight. B, the constant rain has put the children in a bad mood and made them mean. C, Venus has changed the way humans think and the children have lost their imagination. D, the constant rain has made children doubtful that the sun will even appear. Go ahead, take 30 seconds to answer that question.
If you're not finished, please pause the video, finish answering the question, and then join us when you're finished. Number 4, how does the phrase, "they looked at everything and savored everything," in paragraph 61 contribute to the narrator's tone? A, it creates a celebratory tone because the children feel freed by the appearance of the sun. B, it creates a lighthearted tone because the children do not believe the sun is really shining. C, it creates an intense tone because the children are focused on remembering the moment instead of enjoying it. D, it creates an urgent tone because the children are rushing since they know the rain will soon return. Go ahead and take 30 seconds to answer this question. If you're not finished, please pause the video, finish answering the question, and then join us when you're finished.
Number 5 has 2 parts. So part A says, how and why does the children's point of view change over the course of the story? So in my mind, what I think of when I read this question is, how does the children's point of view, meaning how did they feel? How did they act at the beginning of the story? And then maybe how were they in the middle? And then how were they again at the end? Point of view, like how did they feel towards the sun? How did they feel about the sun? Okay, that's what I want you to tell me in all different parts of the story. So maybe the beginning, the middle, and the end. Go ahead.
If you're not finished, pause the video, finish up your answer for letter A, and then when you're done, go ahead and join us again. Letter B, what lesson or theme does this change convey? Now, Miss O'Leary and I kind of talked about the theme earlier in the video, so if you need to, go ahead and rewind it and go back to what we said. We'll give you 30 seconds to answer this question. If you're not finished with any of these questions, please pause the video, go back to any of the numbers that you need to finish, and then once you're done, you can go ahead and hit play again.
All right, now it's time for our writing prompt. It says, respond to the following prompt. Your response should be at least 5 sentences. Some of you, I can honestly say, have been doing an amazing job with this in my class. I love reading your stories, and some of you have been writing way more than 5 sentences, which is amazing to me. Keep up the good work, and for those of you who maybe need to write a little bit more, now is your chance to show us how well you can do. So the prompt says, Margot moved from Earth to Venus. How can major changes in people's lives affect their views and the way they think about the world? Discuss a time when you were influenced by a major change in your life. All right, so you can type that right on here. I really look forward to reading your responses.
And if you guys are really struggling to think about a major change in your life, think about what's going on in the world right now. Are we in school? What's the reason why we're not in school? So if you're really stuck, you can go ahead and write about those major changes happening right now.